Lage Lund's playing on his standards album Trio Plus One is truly incredible. It's hard to believe that this album is almost 20 years old for just how modern it still sounds. With that modern sound though comes a certain level of mystery or ambiguity, particularly in the trio format. So I transcribed and analysed 25 of his 251 lines across 3 tunes on this album to uncover what actually creates that sound. In this lick, Lage is using reduction. That means playing to one sound over all 3 chords. That simplification is actually a really common device, but listen to which tool he's using in the reduction. That's a D sus4 triad. Now, Wayne Shorter was using the sound back in the 60s already, but this is a more recent adoption for jazz guitar language. His playing isn't just about reduction though. When you break apart his style, something that becomes very apparent is his use of intervallic playing. That may be harmonically in diads or melodically as interval sequences. You can hear that there's more to the organization of this line than just throwing out intervals in the key. In the first 3 bars, he's setting up a pedal note on a D. That ties the whole phrase together. Over the A minor 7, that's the 11th. Over the D7, that's the root. And over the G major 7, that's the 5th. So there's this top line layer of reduction going on that creates context across the line. This is the call. On each chord he adds a dyad response. Over the A minor 7 he plays a 4th interval. That's the 7th and the 3rd of the chord, the guide tones. Now over the D7 he sequences that response downwards. That's the flat 9 and the sharp 11 of the chord. That's super crunchy. Over the G major 7 he calls, but then he opens up the dyad voicing. He's targeting an octave of the D, the 5th of G major 7, but he anticipates it with the leading tone. That creates this hard dissonance, but it's just a chromatic approach tone played in harmony. From the D, he moves up a 6th interval to a B. The D and the B are both the 5th and the 3rd of the G major chord. We've moved from hard dissonance into something far more melodic. But notice the range that's been spanned in just a few beats. That's just shy of 2 octaves. This is something that makes Lage's playing sound very tall, and this works perfectly for the trio format where you have the space to express the full range of the guitar. Over the next 251, he continues to sequence the 6th interval upwards. He highlights the 5th and 3rd of these chords respectively, C major and D major. And this lands him on the root of the resolution. Now because Lage comps for himself in trio, he lays down one of the coolest voicings for a major 7th with the root in the melody. This is just the first inversion voicing of a drop 2 major 7 chord. The only difference is that we've omitted the 5th that usually sits at the top, and now we have a 3-note voicing where the melody note is the root. And what's really hip is that we get this minor 2nd interval between the major 7th and the root. Now, in more traditional styles, you would generally avoid these hard dissonances in your comping by opening the voicings. But you'll find that Lage often chooses these closed versions and embraces that rub. So far, we have reduction and intervals as solid concepts that Lage uses in his playing. But if there was one concept that I think is most fundamental to his sound, it would have to be his use of triads. This is a turnaround progression more so than a standalone 251. The lick plays out almost entirely with a sequence of triads. G major, G minor, F minor, A flat major, and D minor. And here's where some of the ambiguity can start to creep in. Those triads don't exactly match the chords that the bass is highlighting, but once you see their relationships, it becomes clearer. The B minor 7 is a 3 chord, which is just a substitution for the 1 chord, G major, so that makes sense. The G minor arpeggio creates a B flat 6 sound, that makes sense as well. In the second bar, Lage is playing to A flat 7, the tritone substitution of D7. So the F minor creates an A flat 6 sound before he goes into the A flat major triad. So after that, he uses a D minor triad, and that highlights the G6 sound on the 1 chord. Now, because there are no chords being played between the bass player and the guitar, a line like this can start to sound ambiguous or random, and it's one of the reasons that my ears took a long time to truly appreciate what Lage plays. But once it clicks, it really opens a new world of music appreciation. Add the theory to the sound, apply it to the fretboard, and now you can have access to it too. Sound, theory, application. Now, these melodic and harmonic devices are great, but one of the most important and masterful aspects of his playing is his use of rhythm and time. 1, 2, 1. You can already hear the variety in this phrase. 8th note triplets, quarter note triplets, 16th notes, and swing 8th notes. It's not uncommon to hear quarter note triplets in bebop and hard bop guitar playing, but look at how he's organized these triplets against the meter. They start on the last triplet 8th note of bar 1. He's essentially taken this common rhythm and anticipated it, creating real interest. Now, that's not all that he's anticipating. Take a closer look at this line. He plays to the E minor 7 with the G major triad before that bar arrives. And then he plays to the A7 arpeggio before it gets there. And then this bar is basically a chromatic approach into D minor 9. This is a key ingredient of Lage's language, large anticipations up to a bar long and often for several bars in a row. But his playing doesn't just express these concepts, reduction, intervals, triads, and timing in isolation. A part of what makes his sound so fluid is his ability to mix and match these ideas in the moment. Which of these concepts can you hear in the next phrase? The first thing that jumps out to me here is his use of time. Now, we've discussed more macro levels of timing, anticipating the harmonic rhythm by a bar, anticipating common rhythms by a beat, and variety of rhythmic divisions. But the micro level of time is what catches my ear in this example. That's what you refer to as time feel. At this tempo, 8th notes are usually swung, and that's how he starts out. But as we move into the second bar, those 8th notes become straight. And as we get into the third bar, the rhythm changes. But he starts to shift to playing slightly behind the beat, slightly late. Now, this isn't a mistake. This is the purposeful use of time feel as rhythmic language. The next concept is intervals. This whole line is based on 6th intervals, a sound that by now you can tell is important to his style. But hidden in the notes is another concept, reduction. The chords say 1, 6, 2, 5, but he's playing one sound over the entire passage. But there are a few accidentals in there, so let's investigate it. That's because he's harmonizing the key of C at times with Barry Harris's 6th diminished scale. That's a broad topic with tons of resources, so I won't go into depth on it here, but the scale has harmonic movement built into it when harmonized, so we get the best of both worlds, reduction with movement. Lage takes the scale harmonization a step further though by harmonizing a set of 4-note chords in this next passage, and he takes full advantage of the space between the guitar and the bass to stretch his harmonic capabilities. That's a lot of chordal movement in the space of just 2 bars. Let's crack it open and take a closer look at the structures inside of it. The clear logical voice is the line on the B string that descends by semitones through the first 2 bars. The top line is derived only from notes from A minor. The other voices, while generally descending, seem to be more in support of those lines. Let's take a look at the vertical structures to see if there's a logic behind it, or if it's purely shape sequencing. B minor 7, B diminished 7th, A minor 7th, A diminished 7th, A flat diminished 7th, A minor 7 over G, F diminished 7th, an implied A flat diminished 7th, and back to A minor. Vertically, there is a logic. B diminished 7th is an inversion of an E7 flat 9 chord, and that resolves to A minor 7. Cool. A diminished 7th sequences by semitone into A flat diminished 7th, which can be seen as an inversion of an F diminished 7th, which is the descending diminished chord to the 3 chord, E minor 7. F sharp diminished 7th can be seen as an inversion of B7, 5/7 of E7. And finally, the unharmonized B can be seen as an A flat diminished 7th, an inversion of E7 flat 9. And that brings us back to A minor. So he's really taking liberties here in creating movement from within A minor, but outside of those written in the changes or played by the bassist. But what results is a stunning display of chordal movement that creates a climactic effect within the music. These were just 6 of the 25 lines that I transcribed and analyzed from Lage Lund. You can download that PDF for free in the show notes below. If you like this video, you can check out the one that I made for Pat Metheny next.